Hello and good day to all friends. This is Mojtaba Rasti from the Thales team, and today is November 5th, 2025. I'm here with you to analyze Bitcoin using the Thales Market Screener tool. Please note that these analyses are purely educational and for informational purposes. If you use them to take any positions in the market, the responsibility for any profit or loss is entirely your own. Yesterday, we expected a move upward from this point, a corrective move up to around 106, and then a downward move. However, the strength and intensity of the downward price movement was very high, and from that point, the downward leg we anticipated took place, bringing us down to 99,000. Now, we're seeing a reversal happening. In fact, the expectation we had has kind of shifted. As you can see, on the 4-hour chart, our RSI entered the overbought zone, and now, in this upward move. The moving average has been broken to the upside, and it's showing a bullish condition. The situation has become very sensitive in the crypto market right now. If you look around the internet, if you actually search, you'll see that you can find both bullish and bearish perspectives. There are those who believe we still have a bullish leg ahead, a new high, and there are those who are warning about the end of the bull market. Both viewpoints exist, and we're at a critical point. We've shown that, based on options data we're looking at for the end of November and the end of December, the outlook is still bullish. You can still see hope for an upward move from those curves. Even today, after we saw the 99,000 bottom, or to be more precise, 98,900. When I checked the chart, the same conditions still apply for the end of November and the end of December, and the outlook. There's a bullish outlook. If you remember, since Friday, we pointed out 3 very large trades in the process database, one for 1,000 bitcoins, one for 500 bitcoins, and one for 300 bitcoins. These were long call positions. They had bought long calls, actually, for the end of, I think, November, for November 28th. The strike prices they chose were between $130,000 and $135,000. Those trades are still open, meaning their open interest is still positive, they haven't been closed yet. These are interesting points, so for now, we can have the perspective that this area is a bottom. Of course, we could still go lower, even $98,000, and in some curves, you can even see $95,000 as a possible level we might touch before moving back up. If we look at the daily chart, yes, you can see there's been a really good bounce, a really strong support, right around the $99,000 level. Especially if today's candle closes higher, that's a good sign. It would be a positive development if today's candle recovers most of that previous bearish candle. It would actually be a good development regarding this wedge that we were talking about. Now, we've come below it and we're still basically struggling to see whether it will return inside this wedge or if it will get rejected downward here. Of course, there's another point as well. On the weekly chart, you can see that we can also adjust this wedge. Look, we have shadows here. These candles have shadows, so we can adjust this wedge accordingly. Let's adjust it a bit based on the new lows that are forming. Look, if we even consider this wedge based on these lows and give it more time, that's another point. If we give this wedge more time, it would look like this. We're still drawing the lows based on the shadows, see, almost like this, and we're allowing more time for it to play out. In the long-term analysis I gave you a while ago, you even saw that 150 and 160 were numbers that were being considered. Although now, maybe we think those numbers are a bit too optimistic, but if we give this wedge more time, you can see that we're still at its bottom. That's what I'm doing. I'm now adjusting this wedge based on the new lows, and from now on, we'll consider the wedge like this, because we still believe that. Actually, if you draw a trend line here, around 98 to 99,000, this is basically the area where the price hits and we can expect some support. So, even on the daily chart, you can still see that based on this wedge, we're currently seeing support on its lower side. So, for now, this is how we're adjusting our weekly wedge. Now, let's move on to the market screener and see what we've got there. What we will have, and what conclusions we can reasonably draw from the trades. Well, from the beginning of today up to this very moment in time, break time equals 0.5s/, for the expiration date of. Tomorrow, November 6th, the raw database shows 4,068 bitcoins traded in the form of 2,097 option contracts. Let me double check that. Yes, that's correct. And the result is this: you can see the probability of an upward move, a bullish leg, has increased. The bullish leg has gone up. If we move the slider forward, you'll see the bullish leg gains a bit more strength, but still, the possibility of a downward move is on the table. Friends, if we turn on the delta, you can see here we have a complex structure here, and we're kind of stuck in the middle. As we move upward, the delta decreases to around 106, roughly 105, meaning 105 is seen as a strong resistance. If it breaks 105, or let's say 106, if it breaks 106, a series of call option buys will be triggered here, and their targets will get closer to 110. So we're saying 106, look here, here, and here, 106. If we can break through it strongly, then a series of the work contracts get activated here on the downside. If we move down, the delta is bullish, meaning puts have been sold up to 99,900. So, we move it to 99,000, and at 99,000, the bottom is seen again. If 99,000 doesn't hold, then we can start thinking about 95,000. Look, we can even consider 95,000 or 96,000. And here, if we want to find the entry point for profit, 95,000 is where the curve starts to become profitable. So right now, we're between the ceiling and the floor, and we have to see what the price will do, basically, which side it can break and move toward. If we look at the process data, there are 732 bitcoins, and for tomorrow, a volatile situation is expected, with a ceiling at 104,200, a floor at 89,990, and a peak profit at 101,500. So right now, we're moving toward the ceiling, and probably in the next hour, we can touch 104,000 to 105,000 and then possibly come back down. We're still in a downward structure, so there's a chance we'll go up to 104,000 to this zone, and then return for another attack toward 99,000. If 99,000 holds, for example, you can move up, or if it breaks, the next target is 98,000, and after that, 96 and 95. Otherwise, if this leg pushes through strongly and breaks 106,000 or 107,000 to the upside, then we can be hopeful that the price will reclaim its previous highs. Alright, let's move on to the charting. Let's mark the zones and continue. So, you can see the intersection of the buyer and seller curves, which shows a volatile situation for tomorrow. Look, at the top, there's consensus around 105,100, and at the bottom, consensus is around 98,700, the numbers we mentioned earlier. None of these zones are consensus zones. You can see there's disagreement in both zones, and both are at a loss, meaning neither side has the upper hand. Based on technical analysis, we might see an upward move, maybe up to around 104,500, for example. Let's bring this move here as well, the one that's been happening so far, and place it here. And then another attempt at 98, for example, 98,900. Roughly, we can expect a move like this. And it shows a volatile situation. Let's go for the zone updates and continue. So, you can see the indicator bands, which are completely bearish for tomorrow. That means both the top and bottom are moving sharply downward with strong momentum, and the price is moving right along the red band. And it seems like we might see a situation similar to here. This leg came up, had a pullback toward the green band, and then dropped down again. So, it's possible that we could go up to around 105 and then attack 99,000 again. As we said, the condition for changing this situation is that the move toward 105 has to be a strong one. For example, we need to reclaim an important high in this bearish leg, like 107, and consolidate strongly above it, then go for 111,500, for example. That would show that the trend is reversing. Or, if we attack the downside and head toward 99,000, it should show good support, like here. Of course, this scenario could also happen. The prelude to breaking 107 or 108 could be that we first attack 99,000 again, see some support here, and form a double bottom. If we attack from here and see a double bottom, it will bounce back up, the double bottom completes, and then we can go up by the height of that double bottom, based on the double bottom structure. In that case, we could set the target at 110, and the price could change like that. So, for now, our expectation for tomorrow is a correction upward and then a move attacking the downside, as you saw in the bands. We've updated the zones as follows. The upper zone is about 104,500 to 106,500. The lower zone is 97,900 to about 99,200, and the middle zone is 101 to 102, which is where we are now, around the middle zone. As we said, we could go up to 104,500 to 105, and then move toward the lower zone. Both of these zones were experiencing a loss, and both of these zones were in a state of disagreement, so the only thing that's actually different in this situation is the upper zone, which is just a little bit wider than it was previously. This means that you can interpret it as there being a greater sense of excitement among traders, as well as more disagreement among traders, specifically within the upper zone. Break time equals 0.5s / alright, let's proceed and activate the short contracts. And let's take a look at delta and gamma. As you can see, we have a short gamma at 102,700, which comes from the same complex we mentioned earlier, meaning the combination of put buys and call sells that created this situation. This volatility has emerged because of that, and this gamma is a result of it, 102,700. We also have a long gamma at 102,700, which is exactly where the price is currently battling, the same spot where it keeps moving up and down. The 102,700 long gamma is due to the market maker buying calls and puts here, while the taker has sold calls and puts on the other side. So, this is an important point that the price is currently hitting. We have two long gammas. Our lower long gamma is naturally stronger, meaning the taker has bought more puts. Where is their target? 95. So, one is for the maker, one for. We have a short gamma at 95,500 as well, and this is another important point for us. This is basically one of our next targets, unless the price shows something, meaning it demonstrates some strength and ability and changes the game. For now, though, we're moving downward in this trend. The upper long gamma for the taker is at 108,500, which becomes a short gamma at 108,500. Here, this is a kind of ceiling. You see, this ceiling is for the maker, who is naturally the seller of puts here and the seller of calls, since the taker has been the buyer here. In this spot, the maker, as the put seller, has a positive delta. If the price moves toward this level, to neutralize their position, they'll start selling, which increases volatility on the upside. The maker, in this case, is the call seller, so their delta is negative. If the price moves in this direction again, the market maker, if they're present and active in the market, will start buying to neutralize their negative delta, which will further intensify the upward movement. We have to see what conditions will develop and what kind of behavior we'll observe from them in the market. Alright, these are the important gamma points. By the way, let me remove this green line wasn't part of our analysis. These are the lines we're working with, so let's move on to the other expirations. Let's remove the gamma. Now, if I add Friday, which is the day after tomorrow and very important. So, as you can see, the overall curve is showing us a downward trend, but notice how challenging the conditions are in the middle. Look at how much the price fluctuates up and down in this range. At first glance, we might easily say it's bearish, but it's not that simple. Look at how many times the delta changes. We're here right now. If the price goes down, the delta is bullish up to 99.6. We have a floor at 99.6. If it goes up, the delta is bearish up to 105. We have a ceiling at 105. If 105 breaks, between 105 and 200, a bunch of call options get activated. Then, up to 110, the next ceiling is 111, and from there, our ceiling starts again, from 111 all the way down to about 119. So you see, the price will have a lot of ups and downs in this range. If we remove tomorrow, actually the 6th, look at Friday alone, 90 seconds, and what's interesting and promising is that we saw the floor. We saw 99,800, 98,900. So up to here, we've seen 98,900, and we've seen the floor here, meaning we've seen the bottom of this volatility. In the worst case scenario, we can go up to here, you see. After this point, it's 95,300. The curve has dropped sharply, it's really going down now. This is the bottom, which is probably, in the worst case scenario, the final bottom at 95,300. The main part of the path seems to be heading downward. According to this curve we're following, what are we facing for Friday, for today's trades, for Friday? Moving up, we have a point at 105,600. Another point is at 107,600. This point is key, 111,700. The top, or ceiling, is 116,300. Sliding forward, you'll see it gets interesting here. Look, if we move the slider forward here, right now we're at the start of an upward move, with a ceiling at 108,600. So the ceiling basically starts from 109,000, and it could stop here at the 12,200 level. What I want to say is that there's a bullish move here. We saw a bottom here, and now there's a bullish move, which was predicted for recent Friday trades. And here's an interesting point. Look at what this curve resembles. If we look at it this way, it almost looks like a butterfly strategy, meaning a point targeting strategy that aims for profit at a specific spot. And the peak profit in this butterfly-like strategy is at 112,500. So, it's possible that one side of the story is that after a bit of fluctuation here, things could turn around. And that's one side of the story. Okay, that's for Friday. Now let's move on to the next part. As for the longer term, which I think we discussed in the previous analysis, there's still hope. So let's take a look at today's trades and the details. Out of 2,443 contracts, there are 1,111 call buys and 1,332 put buys. You can see that put buys are dominant. They see profits below 98,700. The next important point is this break in the red curve, right here at 96,100. This range could be reached, 96,100 to 98,700. So, about 18 hours have passed since the trade started. Let's go back 18 hours. Look, here we have 3 hours on this candle. Almost 3 hours have passed. With this candle, it's 7 hours. With this one, 11 hours. With this one, 15 hours. And with this candle, 19 hours. So, basically, at the bottom, at the end of this red and bearish candle, these trades were entered, the ones we're analyzing. The chart was here when these trades were made, so the calls are being realized. You see, this is what we're saying. We can probably still go lower, and that's happening. The calls are being realized. The calls wanted above 104,300, and the next important point is 104,500. The next key point is this break here in the red curve at 107,900 and 108,000. So, we're close to the target. Of course, by close, I mean we can still go higher. We're on that path. We can go up to 104,000, and as I said, up to the upper zone, up to 104,500, and after that, it's probably the puts' turn, because the puts haven't been realized yet. As we said, the puts want to see 98,700 to 96,000, up to 98,700. So, it's important that the puts haven't been realized yet. Sellers have 1,624 Bitcoin, of which 911 are call sales and 713 are put sales, and call sales are higher. It's really interesting. Call sales are higher, meaning this bullish move is happening, but the sellers have created a ceiling. The call sale ceiling that's been seen is 103,400, 103,500, so we might not even reach 104,000. 103,500 is the spot where, you could say, we've already seen it. The shadow of this candle is 103,300, so we've basically already seen the top. We might not go all the way up to the top. It's possible this was the end of the move. The distance from 103,000 to 104,300, that's $1,000, might be all the price gives us, and it might not go higher. So, they've set a hard ceiling for this upward move. Where have the put sellers set their level? The put sellers have seen the floor at 100,500, meaning they don't want the price to go below that here. 100,500 means, come down to this weekly support level of ours. So if that's the case, if it comes down here and finds support at 100,500 and bounces back up, it will probably start a new uptrend, meaning it could even break this ceiling and go higher, starting a new bullish trend. That's an important point to keep in mind. So, we need to see whether the 100,500 level will actually be the bottom, or if we're heading down to 98.2 or even lower. But the likely price action is just that, up, and then another push downward. Alright, that's the breakdown of trades for buyers and sellers. Now, let's move on to the process database. The process data shows 732 negative open interest, not a lot. So, let's check positions of 10 Bitcoin and above, 15 Bitcoin and above. Well, that's very few. 12 Bitcoin. Oh, there are a lot of 12 Bitcoin positions. Let's take a look at those, even though there are quite a few of them. Alright, let's see. Yeah, there are a lot. As for the strategies we have, First of all, the largest trade we have is this one, 49 and 16, all Bitcoin. So, we don't really have any big trades for tomorrow, except for a short put at 99,000. You see, this person has set 99,000 as the bottom for tomorrow, seeing it as the final support level. And then there's this one, 24, 26 Bitcoin, again a short put at 99,000. Now, let's see what strategy we can find. Look, these two strategies are short straddles. Their maximum profit is at 101,800. We're moving toward its ceiling, which is 104,000, and we have this one as well. So, let's add up these straddles and see what happens. This one is also a straddle, and so is this one. You can see that the volume keeps increasing. Also, these two, the volumes are a bit different, and that's where this breakout happened. This one is basically the same. It turned into a short strangle. See, it became a short strangle. And okay, up to this point, you can see we have a short strangle where profit fluctuates between 101 and 101.9 and between 101 and 102 tomorrow. Volatility is limited in this range, with maximum profit and loss. Its floor is 99.230 and its ceiling is 103.700. Okay, if we continue from here, look, this is a straddle, this one is also a straddle. And this one as well. And this one is also a straddle. Here we have three of them. We have a block here, and these might be different. Let me see, yes, this is a butterfly strategy. Since it was a set of 3, it caught my attention. This is a butterfly strategy, and it's really interesting. Now, let's see, we're at the top. This butterfly strategy is targeting 98,900 for tomorrow. Its maximum profit point is targeting 98,750 for tomorrow. Let's move quickly since this video is getting long. Let's quickly take a look at the liquidity. Okay, over the past 24 hours, we've been collecting high liquidity. The high liquidity continues up to 104, as we mentioned, and the price is likely to collect liquidity along that path and move toward this 100,500, which is the next local liquidity peak. We have liquidity at 94,000, and then the next cluster is at 98,000. Let's take a look at the 48-hour chart. Yes, it's pretty much the same here. There's about the same amount of liquidity above and below, but the price is moving in the direction of higher liquidity. You see, there's liquidity here up to 105,600, and then there are points lower down at 100,150 and 98,300. So, in my opinion, considering everything we've discussed, this move is to be expected. Now, the top here might have already been at 133, or we might go down to 104,500 and then see another attempt at, actually, 89,990. After that, we'll have to see whether this level can act as support or if it will break. Thank you for your attention. I hope this was helpful, and until the next analysis, goodbye.